Well, happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. I know it's been an interesting week with a lot of kind of ups and downs, and I'm sure a lot of mixed emotions for everybody. But it's hard to believe that tomorrow's kind of our last planning day before we head into spring break next week. I just want to touch base with everybody and try to put into perspective kind of where we're at, what we're thinking, and where we are in terms of planning for the immediate future. Before they do that, I want to give a couple of thank yous. So first of all, I want to give a big thank you to the community ed staff. One of the things that came out of the governor's proclamation on Sunday was that school districts would be responsible for providing childcare for our emergency workers, and so I applaud the staff over at Community Ed for getting themselves organized and providing that emergency childcare for our healthcare workers and emergency personnel. There wasn't a lot of time to do that. They took on that role and that responsibility and done an awesome job with that. I've had an opportunity to kind of be out in buildings, respond to people's emails, done some Google Meets with people and things like that. I want to say thank you and how impressed I am with the solution finding mentality of our staff in the district. I get there's a lot of unknowns. I know people are trying to do planning for maybe things that we're still not sure about for a period of time we're still not sure about. And it's really easy to kind of get muddled in that whole woe is us, woe is me sort of a thing. But every time I've talked to people or met with people or sat down and looked at Google Meets or explain everything with different groups that they're trying to make meaning of that, people have been really positive. And I think that's one thing that sets our staff off apart from other school districts. I think that growth mindset, that ability to look at things differently, to be willing to find solutions is what's going to allow us to make the best out of this situation. I mean, obviously we're heading into uncharted waters, things that have never happened before, and really by kind of looking at the bright side of things and trying to figure out how we can do things and do them the best we can given what we know and what we're able to do is going to really make things easier for our kiddos, easier for our families as we jump into kind of distance learning. I know we have one more planning day tomorrow, and like I said, I hope people are a little less anxious than they were when they started this on Tuesday. And that's kind of the feeling I get. And I get people are nervous, and rightfully so. But hopefully by the time you leave tomorrow, you feel good about at least having a plan. So if we do indeed start distance learning on March 30th, we can kind of hit that ground running. Unfortunately, the state hasn't given us a lot of direction other than that we are closed through the 27th, which is the Friday of spring break. And they haven't really said, what that looks like that following week. Doing the best guessing that I can do, I would be shocked if we didn't jump right into distance learning on that Monday, March 30th. And people then say, well, how long are we going to do that? And again, we have no direction from MDE, but looking at information from the CDC, Minnesota Department of Health, to really have any impact, you got to shut stuff down like 12 to 8 weeks. And so we take off these 2 planning weeks, and then, 8 additional weeks. That would put us at about 10 weeks. So that's my best guess. Now, in our earlier communication, tried to get people to understand we can't plan for 8 weeks. So try to chunk it up, have people start to think about, 2-week segments. So hopefully by the end of tomorrow, people feel good about beginning on March 30th and being able to kind of be in position to support distance learning for those first 2 weeks. That first day is going to be really important, in terms of reaching out and communicating with families and verifying what their preferred method is of communication. If they have everything they need, if they're okay with meals, if we're going to have to be able to figure out ways to deliver resources and things for them. So that first day, March 30th, we're going to call it a Flex Learning Day, but really it's a check-in day where you can start that interaction with families to make sure that they're set up for the next 2 weeks. We don't want anybody to give any work those days. We simply want people to check in and make sure our students and our families are in an okay spot to begin what's probably going to be an extended closure with distance learning. The other thing I want you to understand is that as we move into this, it's okay not to be perfect. I've tried to do a really good job, and I think the district has tried to do a really good job of providing people with up-to-date information. But if you remember back to Sunday, we read into the governor's, proclamation, or whatever you want to call it, one way, and found out that it had a different intent. So the original information I sent out wasn't accurate. And so there's going to be things that we do that don't work out well. As long as we're doing with the best of intentions, that's what we need to do, and that's kind of the mindset we have to have. And when we make mistakes, or we try things, or you're willing to put yourself out there in terms of connecting with your kids in a different way or designing learning different ways, and it doesn't go exactly the way they want, it's okay not to be perfect. Take a deep breath, and then we'll just come back the next day and do the best we can. The other thing I want to reiterate to people is, as you begin and continue to design that learning, do it from a standpoint of strength. Figure out what you're really good at, whether that's Schoology or other types of interactions you have with your kids, and start with that. Start with things that you're familiar with, start with things that the kids are familiar with, and then build off of that. If you're not ready to do Google Meets, don't do Google Meets right away. Give yourself time and opportunity to practice those things, either with your collaborative team or grade level teams or people within your building, and maybe you do that week too. So we're all in different spots in that progression in terms of how comfortable we are at integrating different pieces into different distance learning. So again, start with what you're comfortable with and move there. It's vital that you feel comfortable with what you're trying to do. And that will make sure that the kids and families feel comfortable. And hopefully we've made this apparent, but again, if it hasn't come through, I want to state this clearly for everybody. As you design this distance learning, less is more. We've learned from doing our flex learning days that it can be a real stressor on families when kids are inundated with a ton of work. You're going to have to narrow your curriculum. You're going to have to narrow your focus and really get to what are those core essential things that we really want kids to dig into, for up to potentially 8 weeks, or maybe at the end of the school year, and focus on those things. We're not going to be able to do everything that we would have done if the kids are in the building, and that's okay. Less is more. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of what maybe those 3 or 4 things are at your grade level or in the class that you're teaching, and focus on those and make sure kids are able to do that. And there's going to be certain things or things that you've traditionally done that we just have to move to the side. And again, that's fine. Make sure you plan in flexibility. We have to understand and remember that, everybody's work environment has changed. And so, families may have parents or grandparents or guardians that are working at home, or their work life has shifted, and that's going to add anxiety and stress to that family dynamic. We want to make sure that we provide families flexibility. So if parents, do need to provide any support, or parents, have different things going on, so that deadlines that we create don't add to that stress of that family. And then finally, connections and relations are going to be the key to making sure that we succeed in our distance learning. So if you stay with less is more and you narrow that focus, you get to have the opportunity to spend more time to continue to build those relationships and those connections. And as I said before, you may be able to expand how you connect with families and students, but start with those connections that you're most familiar with, the things that you feel good about, and then build off of those. And then as you get more comfortable and you integrate different ways of connecting and building those relationships through this extended closure, again, like I said before, if it doesn't go well, it's okay. Learn from it and fix from it. Like I said earlier, I'm sure there's some anxiety and nervousness about what this is going to look like. But the reality is the work that we've done, not only around flex learning days, but student-centered learning and looking at the design of learning differently, has prepared us for this. Now, again, that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. There doesn't mean that there's things that we're not going to get better at and we're going to learn from doing this. But our staff here in this district is prepared and ready to do this. And I can't think of a better group of people to lead and work through this process with everybody. So as we continue to work through this, as we continue to get better, and as we continue to get more information from MDE, we'll share that with everybody. But take tomorrow, get yourself as prepared as you can. Enjoy spring break. I know it's going to be different than probably what you originally planned. Try to relax. Try not to think about, school and things like that. I know that's easy to say, but hard to do for educators. And then we'll hit that ground running on March 30th, connecting with families. And then we'll get into that 3-day rotation of flex, and then kind of check in and continue that for 2 weeks. And then after we get through that 2 weeks, we will just sit back and we'll take a day to plan and kind of evaluate where things are. And then we'll continue to move forward. So again, thank you very much for all the work and time people put in over the last 2 days, 2.5 days, and tomorrow to get ready for this. And take a deep breath, and it's all going to be fine. If you need anything, there's lots of people willing to help. Just reach out to them, and if there's anything I can do, let me know as well. So have a great night. Have a good day planning tomorrow, and then enjoy your spring break. Again, thank you very much for everything that everybody's doing to make this successful.